Welcome to Truman's Town Hall with your host, Matt Truman.
All right, I'm sitting here with Alex the Explainer.
That is my channel name, not my real name.
Right. All right, so you wanted to come on Truman's Town Hall and talk a little bit about what you do, right? Over on Alex the Explainer?
So what I have is a channel that is supposedly made for kids. And only kids can comment, but on my channel I have stuff about paleontology and other science topics, and also some other topics,
And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, paleontology.
Paleontology's your thing, isn't it?
Yes, it's a very interesting part in science where you dig into the ground and then you can see many different kinds of stuff. We don't even need to get in the ground, for sometimes in Montana, you can just find a fossil on the ground.
Okay, slow down.
I know. Okay, so
You get all excited and you start just going off. All right, so what is paleontology?
it's the study of fossils. There's also there's other studies of the earth, like volcanology, where you can study volcanoes,
Sure.
which are basically holes to the mantle and core. And there's also geology, where you study Earth's rocks, and also archaeology, where you find remnants.
These are earth sciences, right?
Well, not really. Some history of Earth science and stuff, when studying the history and also studying many parts of the Earth.
Okay, so paleontology is the study of what?
Fossils.
Okay, so what do you enjoy most about paleontology?
I like how, because there's a vast history, 4.5 billion years of just amazing creatures, many stuff, and basically history of the Earth as a whole is basically incredible. There's so many different kinds of things that you can study and stuff.
What makes it so incredible?
What makes it so incredible is that there's a vast history, and there's so many unique stuff that not even a person would basically think about. It's this vast a chain of time and stuff, and there's so many creatures, and it's just amazing. The fossils you dig up, they're really cool. There's
what's a fossil?
A fossil, it's not really bone, it's an actual rock, because bones aren't actually rocks. So what happens is a bone gets into sediment, and if water flowing through the pore spaces of the bone can precipitate minerals.
Slow it down.
Can precipitate minerals out.
So the porous parts of... Go ahead, start there.
The bone, where the pore parts of the bone, water flows in, if there can be water flowing in, and then basically it creates minerals, and all the rest of the bone just decays away. So it's basically, these aren't the real bones we're finding, it's actual rocks.
Rocks that maybe things over time, dirt, dust, particles have formed around the bone, then the bone rots away, and the rock is already formed. Similar to, say, we set a form for concrete, and then we lay that concrete. Well, that form has already been made, so then, boom. And anything caught within that form over time will decay, such as...
Bones.
Bone, right?
So, basically, fossils are basically cast fossils. Those are what cast fossils are. But there's also trace fossils, footprints, and egg fossils, and many other ones. Now, the reason why I do paleontology is that there's entertainment, where it's basically stuff that aren't educational, and there's education. Now, sometimes when you have a bad day and you go watch some entertainment stuff, then that's pretty good. But I know you can just watch it and that's it. But what about stuff that actually had to do work? I know making movies do a lot of work, but another thing that does a lot of work and you don't really have to. You don't, and basically that's not really. It's not creative, but it kind of creative when you like speculative parts where you say something that you just guess and stuff. That's the part that's creativity, and there's a lot in paleontology. But basically, what type of like subject do I like? I like science the most because English and math. Well, English about reading and math. Well, it's math, It's specific math about numbers, and well, I know, but they're just normal, And history, there's a bunch of books on history. I know a lot about history, and history is basically we already know about it. We already know about it, and it's not really all you do is like.
Well, not everybody knows about history because history is my thing. I love history. I can talk history like you talk fossils. Like you talk science, I can talk history. Because not everyone understands. That's why I do the Truman's Town Hall podcast. Because not everyone remembers what happened. And what happened is a good way not to make mistakes in the future. Don't you believe that?
Yes.
So like, for example, if an archaeologist was digging at a site and they dug too far and actually chipped a bone or a rock that they didn't mean, right, you're going to tell me they actually did that. And they learned from that, don't you think? You learn from that, and that has now become what? History.
History.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically...
It's good to learn from what?
History. And there's like really big history books, and you can learn like a lot about, like almost like all about history in that.
Do you want to talk about Roman history? World War II? Philosophy? What do you want to talk about? Because I can talk about all that stuff for days.
Man,
all right, let's keep it to fossils.
Okay, so yeah, well, history, I know, but you can just look on it. But all you have to do is like you learning it. But historians are like they learn on the way. They find mysteries in history, and well, I know
historians have went to college for many, many years to have that title as a historian. Dad's a student of history, not quite a historian. Wouldn't you think? As you are a student of archaeology,
or
not
paleontology.
Paleontology, not a paleontologist. Which that's your goal is to go to school to be a paleontologist, right?
Yes, but
okay. So let's walk that out a little bit. What's your plan to become a paleontologist?
So my plan is that once I'm in high school, I'll get the app Bitcoin, and I'll get some money in Bitcoin. And once I get enough for my college fund, then I'll like probably go to Harvard University, and stuff. And yeah.
Okay, what's at Harvard?
Harvard, there's many famous paleontologists have been at.
Can
Harvard.
You name any of them?
Robert Bacher.
Okay, Robert Bacher.
Yeah, and I think that's the only one I know.
What's so special about Robert Bacher or Barker?
So what he does is basically he studies like dinosaurs, and he's also been a part of many good fossil finds and stuff where he's helped just learn about the dinosaur mummy that had real like fossilized organs in them.
Wasn't there on one of your documentaries, wasn't there a paleontologist from Wright State University on one of those?
Mine?
Yeah.
That I may know.
I thought I saw that on one of the documentaries you showed me.
Oh, probably. Oh, that I showed you? Oh,
yeah.
Not the one that I actually made, because mine I just like probably use like footage from other like ones with good CGI and stuff, and basically I put my toys outside and do like those kind of things, those kind of documentaries, but I don't really like do those kind of like from Wright State University. Oh, I know one. You think like from Ohio University? where Lawrence Whitmer, used CT scans to scan the brains of dinosaurs to see, not the actual brain, the brain case where the brain used to be, but now all of the brain is decayed away, so all we had is the brain case. And so when we scan it, we see where those parts of the brain would be.
Like the what?
Like the
pineal gland.
Or like the part of the ear, the olfactory lobes, the frontal lobe probably,
Right.
the left and right lobes parts and stuff. Now, what I was going to say earlier was, history is your thing, but science is mine. But what type of science? Well, I was going to say I've looked through and I studied astronomy and stuff. It's kind of like, I don't really like
I took
astronomy.
an astronomy class in college. It's pretty awesome.
Well, I used to like it, but
What happened?
I don't know. I just thought, maybe I should do paleontology and start liking
Okay,
paleontology.
so let's talk about this a little bit.
I know there's variety of what you can like, and that's what I like
That's
about
fine.
learning and stuff. That is a really important thing about learning and stuff. Like, I know like paleontology, geology, and many other stuff.
Sure. Okay. Paleontology. Let's talk about it. Take us back to when folks started to learn about paleontology. Do you know this?
Oh,
Because I like history, so tell me a little bit of the history of paleontology.
So, I actually really know a lot about this. Now, I think in 1916, in a quarry mine, they found the very first fossil ever discovered of a mosasaur, and they didn't know that animals even went extinct at that time.
A mosasaur is a dinosaur, right?
No, it's not a dinosaur. It lived during when dinosaurs existed, but
Was it in the Jurassic period,
the Cretaceous.
Cretaceous period?
The Cretaceous period, and it wasn't really a dinosaur, it was a marine reptile, and was along with plesiosaurs and ichthyosaurs, which ichthyosaurs look like fishes, but they're not. They're actually marine reptiles, and plesiosaurs look like the Loch Ness Monster. Well, what people think the Loch Ness Monster looks like.
Ah, yes, because the Loch Ness Monster has not been found yet, has it?
It's a mystery, but also, the famous picture of Loch Ness Monster?
Here's the thing. Hold on, real quick. Here's the thing that I've found. If it has been a mystery for so long, we have a lot of technology these days. Everyone has a camera in their pocket. A camera and a video recorder in their pocket. When I was a kid, they didn't have all that stuff. You were doing pretty good if you had a camcorder when I was growing up. Okay? Now everyone has one. The poorest of the poor in America have cameras and video recorders in their pocket. So if there was a Loch Ness Monster or a Bigfoot or what's another mythical creature?
Mothman.
Mothman, Chupacabra. What else we got?
Basically, I think the Chupacabra is basically a coyote.
How about this? A coyote with mange or a hairless coyote.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Well, I think we're getting a little too off topic.
We are, you're right. All right, so paleontology, hit me.
So basically, the history where in 1916 they found mosasaur bones, which is a marine reptile, not a dinosaur, and they didn't know that creatures can go extinct. And what they actually found was back in
You were talking
they
about
found-
1919.
Oh, in 1916,
1916, okay.
and then a couple, I think.
Which, when you remember dates like that, guess what that is?
What?
History.
History. Now, also one time people found a fossil and they thought to believe it was the thigh bone of a giant human, and
Okay, time out. Giant thigh bone from a human, like a Goliath?
No, like, so there was a person who searched the Bible to find something that might belong to this, and he saw in the Bible there are these, like, half human, half angel people who were, like, just, like, giant people.
Wow.
And in the Bible, and they thought that there was that. And also I heard this other story where the person wrote something that they actually belong to the testicles of a human. Like
What did? These fossils?
The fossil. It was basically like a cutoff. It kind of looked like testicles, but it was actually a thigh bone of a dinosaur that was discovered by I think Richard Owen. He was a back in the early days of paleontology.
Was he back in the early 1900s then?
Yeah,
Richard Owen?
And also William Buckland.
William Buckland?
Yeah, and they discovered that it wasn't a thigh bone of a giant human, and it was actually a giant...
Or testicles.
Or testicles. It was actually the thigh bone of a dinosaur that they named Megalosaurus, and at that time, they thought that they're giant lizards, and also they found iguanodon and stuff, but... also, people are thinking that, oh my gosh, dinosaurs had feathers. Dinosaurs were actually birds, and birds are dinosaurs. But that was the original idea that in America, a person found footprints of dinosaurs.
Paleontologist in America.
A paleontologist in America found footprints of a dinosaur, and he thought that it looked like birds, and he made a good description of Velociraptor. The tiny velociraptor with feathers, not the one.
Velociraptor lived in America?
No, Velociraptor lived in Mongolia, but Deinonychus lived in Montana and other parts of the U.S.
What's a Deinonychus?
It's basically a giant version of Velociraptor that's basically the size of...
I bet that dude was mean.
They hunted in packs, and they can take down large Edmontosaurus, which is basically the American version of Iguanodon.
Would they be able to take down a T-Rex?
No,
because
I don't think so.
Let's be honest, T-Rex is the most well-known dinosaur in America for sure.
In Africa, they found an even bigger dinosaur called Spinosaurus. A lot of people know about that.
So Spinosaurus lived in Africa.
I know, so they would never fight, and also T-Rex would still win because of its big bite force.
Were there T-Rexes in Africa as well?
Nope, but there were creatures called Carcharodontosaurus, which had like shark-like teeth, and it probably fought Spinosaurus. But Spinosaurus was more of a water dweller than the one from Jurassic Park 3.
Slow down. We got time to talk all about this, so just slow down.
And then there's a person in England, an amateur fossil hunter, which I'm basically an amateur fossil hunter where I'm not a paleontologist, and no, I don't get paid for it. But what I actually do is like just find fossils for fun, and that was Mary Anning was the person. And one time, there's also this video on my channel called Fossiling in the Winter vlog.
What's your channel?
Alex the Explainer.
On?
YouTube.
There you go.
And
so if anybody wants to go check out some of your videos or send some of their kids to your videos who are interested in science, right? They go to Alex the Explainer on YouTube.
But also, there's one video that I made that's I put in the description that it's like for 13 and older.
Mm-hmm.
And
what's that?
It's like my thoughts on the Russian sleep experiment. It's basically a creepypasta that's creepy with stuff.
All right, so we're going to divert a little bit from paleontology to this because this was interesting. What's the Russian? What are you talking about? The Russian experiment?
The Russian sleep experiment. Now, how they didn't just...
Slow down.
Okay.
You're talking way too fast.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm an old man. I can't handle all that fast talking. All right, slow down, Ben Shapiro, and tell me all about it.
So basically, if you want to learn about it, how about you just go watch...
What's it called? The Russian sleep experiment.
Yeah, I have a video on my channel. It's called...
You got to break it down slow for dudes like me.
It's called
because I don't.
My thoughts on the Russian.
My brain's not as big as yours. How old are you?
9.
9 years old, and you can sit here and blow my mind with all this. All right, go ahead.
So-
the Russian sleep experiment. Explain that to me and the rest of our folks listening.
And so basically you can, how about you just like watch my video, and also I linked in.
You're just trying to get people to go to your page, aren't you?
No, because
just
I think
teasing. I'm
it would
teasing.
take way more longer, and
That's okay.
podcast is supposed to be about paleontology.
We could do
So
it.
let's just-
We could do this for 3 hours if we wanted to. Tell me about give me a quick synopsis of the Russian sleep experiment. Then we'll get back on the paleontology.
So basically, there's Russian soldiers, and they can't sleep that much. So they get the Russians find a gas that can make them stay awake, and they found Russian prisoners, and so they put them in there.
They tested it on Russian prisoners.
Yes, and then they went all crazy and tore out their organs and ate them and all stuff. And
What? That is disgusting.
and they're all
What's that? What? How do you feel about that?
I don't
Does
think
that
it's
scare
true.
you?
It doesn't scare me, but I don't believe it.
Well, right. So things you don't believe don't scare you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Russian prisoners have been tested on this gas
That can make you stay awake.
that you can make you stay awake, and they began to eat their own organs. How would they get to their own organs?
I don't know. So
Okay,
here's
okay.
the thing. It's basically, how can they are strong enough to rip out their own organs and eat them? How?
Who says this stuff?
So there's this website called Creepypasta, and they
I'm
make
allowing you to view creepypasta.
No. So
I'm
my
gonna have to
friend,
put some filters on that.
my friend, he told me
Is
about.
this a friend at school?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. We're gonna have to get you out of public school.
No. You remember my friend Dalton? That was him. My friend. Oh.
I'm gonna have to edit that name out now. I'm
Okay.
gonna have to do a beep. Beep.
Yeah.
Do you remember my friend Beep?
Okay, so
My friend Beep, he used to walk around the playground, and then he would talk about stuff, and then I would yell out to him, "Hey, Beep!"
okay, so back on track to paleontology. People even forgot why I even mentioned that video, because it's so long.
Yeah, creepypasta. Go check out the Russian sleep experiment. Go on paleontology.
So after Mary Anning found a bunch of fossils of plesiosaurs and stuff, some like when she tried to get into colleges, only men can get into colleges.
Mm-hmm.
So she had to be an amateur fossil hunter, and she found the first ever plesiosaur, ichthyosaurs and stuff. And I think not the first mosasaur, because that was already found in 1916.
Right.
And so there's like thousands of movies. The first ever dinosaur movie was called Prehistoric Peeps, and then that iconic dinosaur movie where
Jurassic Park.
no, that wasn't Jurassic Park. It was like
That's the iconic dinosaur movie that I know.
yeah, but there is
Or Godzilla, which is Godzilla really a dinosaur?
it's basically
Not
a
really.
really radioactive dinosaur.
Yeah, it's a radioactive lizard.
or dinosaur, but also or a radioactive Permian creature, but
Oh, for crying out loud. Permian creature?
or like from the Permian period before dinosaurs. No, again,
Holy moly. Now we're going way off track again. All right, we're going to title this podcast Off Track with Alex.
So the very first dinosaur movie was not the very first one. Was called Prehistoric Peeps, but there's many comics of it. But the movie itself was never found. And then there's one called Brute Force, which is only features one dinosaur in the entire thing, and then it only has basically about cavemen. But in between those two was an animation of a sauropod, and the very first animation of a dinosaur and stuff. And then there's a short film called The Long Moonburn Trail, which is about dinosaurs. And then
What year was that made?
I don't remember.
Okay, that's cool.
But also there's a book adaptation to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World.
Say that again, but slower so people understand.
So-
if you talk too fast, your words get all jumbled up.
There's a 1925 movie adaptation that's a silent film, and it was based off of. It's basically the movie adaptation of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's novel. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Exactly. See, I didn't understand because you said it so fast. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. See, I'm old. I don't understand all this. Plus, I went to public school too. Okay? And my parents didn't make me do my homework. Do your parents make you do your homework?
Yes.
Okay. Keep going.
And so, basically, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is basically... he actually wrote Sherlock Holmes.
Really?
And I think he also wrote Romeo and Juliet. I don't know, maybe he did that. But
Roy Mandula?
No, Roman and... wait. Romeo and Juliet. And
I thought he wrote Romeo and Juliet.
and also Sherlock Holmes, but he also made The Lost World.
He wrote both of those?
Yeah, and
Romeo and Juliet and Sherlock Holmes?
I think so, and he also wrote
I'm going to have to fact check you
The
on
Lost
that.
World. He also
And he wrote The Lost World?
and it was also not the Michael. No, there's two.
Not the... Go ahead.
Not
Sorry.
the Michael Crichton one.
I
but
know. That's Michael Crichton's now.
Oh.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
was back in like 1925, and he
Roger.
made a book. But there's a movie adaptation that was silent, and Ray Harryhausen made the stop motion. And there's also Charles R. Knight, which is a person who made artwork. Ray Harryhausen made the stop motion puppets that was based off of Charles R. Knight's artwork.
And you use stuffed animals in your videos on YouTube. But that's similar to that, right?
Yeah.
He used puppets, you used stuffed animals. That's pretty similar.
Yeah, it is.
So, wow. So, did you realize you did that? Did you realize you were using Ray Harryhausen's, did I say the name right?
Yeah, well,
Did-
I didn't know. Well, maybe it was basically stop motion, basically claymation, or basically it was what it is. Not like stuffed animals.
You have a video that's kind of claymation, don't you?
Yeah, it's called Dinosaur Stop Motion.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and also I made
That's one of my favorites of Alex the Explainer.
Yeah, but
You should do more of those, but it takes you way too long to do them, don't it?
yeah, and that one was like 2 minutes long. It took me like forever to make it.
Right. But you know what? Sometimes hard work pays off.
Yep.
Because that video was awesome.
Yeah, and then more movies went on the way. King Kong, right after the.
Big movie coming out. Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah, well, right after The Lost World came King Kong, and it was more about dinosaurs and stuff, and basically a dinosaur movie.
And you're not talking about the Lost World that just came out. You're talking about the Lost World from way back when.
Like in 1925, The Lost World from like 1995.
And you've watched that on YouTube, haven't
No,
you?
I watched it on Netflix, but then they took it off.
Well, you watched the newest Lost World on Netflix. Right?
Well, yeah, from 1925.
You-
Oh, no, 1995.
Right.
But 1925.
Well, that wasn't the Lost World. Jurassic Park was 1995.
No, that was 1993.
And then they had a Lost World 95?
I think Lost World, Jurassic Park, or maybe 1996.
I thought that the Lost World Jurassic Park was the one with the dude from
Parks
and Rec. Andy Dwyer. What's his
No. That I think the main character from the Lost World was the main character from the Lost World was Jeff Goldblum, which played Ian Malcolm in the original movie and also in the Lost World Jurassic Park. But back in 1925, the actual Lost World based on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's novel, not Michael Crichton's, but Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's novel. Right after that was King Kong. And basically, King Kong was originally just basically a giant ape and on Skull Island and a bunch
Sir
of dinosaurs.
Arthur Conan Doyle wrote King Kong as well?
No. I don't think he did.
Okay.
And
So
then
we'll have to research that.
And there's many other movies, Jurassic Park, and also the sequels, and they're making one next year. They're making one on the exact same day when Jurassic Park came out. Not like in the same year, because that was in the past, but in 2022, on the same day that Jurassic Park came out, they're going to release Jurassic World Dominion.
With Andy Dwyer from Parks and Rec. Is he still in it?
No. Andy,
Do you know who I'm talking about?
No, wait, which character?
The new guy in the new Jurassic Park. Who also is in...
Chris Pratt?
Yeah, Chris Pratt.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Which plays as Owen Grady in the movie. But so there's many pop culture movies and stuff. And so that's basically the history of paleontology.
So they're making... Okay. But I like movies. And I like Chris Pratt. I think he's a good actor. Yes. And he's a funny dude. He's coming out with a new movie. Is he going to be in the new movie?
I don't know. Maybe.
Do they have trailers out yet? Can I get on YouTube and look at trailers?
No, because it's released next year.
Oh, all right. Okay, so we started talking about paleontology, then we got on this movie kick.
Yes, I know why.
Why?
Because there's a lot of stuff getting off topic. But on to...
Because that's our life, son.
You get off topic sometimes.
Yeah, I got 5 kids. We always get off topic.
I know.
That's part of life. And now we've run amok with the off topic.
Yes, but then now it's time to move on from the off topic and finally talk about focused on the main topic of what I wanted to make it this video.
I'm going to give you a few minutes. Just ramble off whatever you need to ramble off. Tell me specifically, slowly, whatever you want to talk about. Whatever you want to tell Dad, do it.
And
Go.
the podcast people. So
and the listeners at home.
So
exactly.
what I wanted to say about this video is
or in their car. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And so I heard that. So I was going to say the history of paleontology, but what about the actual history of Earth itself? Now, in the beginning, like 4.5 billion years ago, the solar system...
It's not 6.5?
No, 4.5 billion years ago. A couple million years after the Big Bang, the solar system formed as a newborn star. So basically, the sun exploded.
And God created all that, right?
Well, God made the Big Bang, and he just watched what happened next and stuff. And so, possibly, a star exploded, and then the gas from it created a new star, which was the sun. And then there's a bunch of rocks coming near, and all those rocks, one of the planets that were made out of all those rocks was Earth, and stuff. And now, once it was formed, it was so hot that the entire Earth completely melted into molten rock, an endless ocean of lava. And then there's this big collision with a planet called Theia with Earth, and they collided, not head on, but it just collided, and there's a bunch of particles, and all those particles formed the moon, which was a solid, and then Earth cooled down, and then then asteroids hit for so many times, so the asteroids hit so many times that inside the little salt crystals, and which had minute droplets of water, and then when they crashed, there's so much that it formed oceans and continents, and they also carried amino acids, which amino acids all put together form DNA in single cells, and then first single-celled life, and then the single-celled life evolved into stromatolites. Now, if you check in Australia and stuff today, you might find them in like really salty waters. You might find stromatolites. And
They get a lot of salt crocodiles in Australia, right?
Yeah, we're getting off topic.
Okay.
And then they form sunlight into glucose, a small form of sugar, and what they actually did was a byproduct of that was oxygen. And so they lift, and then the oxygen was in the atmosphere. So the Earth had oceans and continents.
Land masses, essentially, right?
Yes. And they had early forms of life and oxygen. And the Earth was ready to do whatever thing they can do. And then right after life started, as like stromatolites were formed and oxygen was in the air, there was so much oxygen that the entire world was engulfed by a giant glacier, and we call it Snowball Earth. And
So how does it get from hot or cold to hot? Or hot to cold? That's what I meant.
so it's basically over time for like millions of years. It's from a hot liquid ball of magma, and then it cooled down and formed all the stuff for life, and then it went back into a hellhole, but a different kind of hellhole, not a big ball of lava, but a frozen ball of ice. And then volcanoes seeped through for millions of years. They were coming out, and they finally came out after an ice age, a global ice age that's longer than the entire span of the human race, like millions of years longer than the entire span of human race.
Wow.
Finally, volcanoes popped out and they released carbon dioxide, and they finally melted the glaciers. And then, for some reason, because the glaciers actually formed hydrogen peroxide, which contained, I think it was more hydrogen sulfide, I don't know, maybe none of them, maybe both of them, or maybe someone else, maybe some other element. I think it was hydrogen peroxide, a chemical rich in oxygen. Mm-hmm. And then the thaw of all of the ice formed even more oxygen, and there was a bunch of oxygen, but instead of freezing into a big ball of ice, the Earth just woke up. And then finally, the Cambrian period, the first period of the Paleozoic, the Cambrian, and there's trilobites and ancient fish and a weird creature called Wawaxia, which is basically armored with these big spikes. And there's Hallucigenia, I think that's what it's called, which is basically a worm, but with like tentacle-like arms and like tentacle-like legs and these big spikes coming out of the top. And then there's also Anomalocaris, which basically is a type with the head has like these big antenna eyes, and they have these shrimp-like parts of the body that get like probably that can like get a trilobite. And then there's a big mouth that does not have a jaw, but has sharp teeth in the mouth. And what it would do is that it would come around and snatch up prey with the like grasping limbs, essentially, and they put it into the mouth and they start eating on the soft underbelly of the trilobite.
So they fed on trilobites.
And basically, the other part of the body is basically a fish part with body without the fins part, basically a long worm-like thing. But then there's like these like thin plate things coming out that are very soft, and also on the back there's parts of the Anomalocaris that went up, basically the versions on the side of the
dorsal.
Like no, not dorsal, but like the side parts of the body. And it said they were like horizontal, and then they were almost vertical, like an
in a
angle.
Y shape.
In an angle, but like basically like a Y shape, but if you pull apart both lines of the Y, it basically forms, because in the middle is the body, and so that's basically what Anomalocaris is. And then the Anomalocaris is maybe not, sadly, went extinct. And then the Ordovician came, and in Ohio, the Ordovician, the Cambrian, Ordovician, and Devonian were all underwater. And so the Ordovician, they had the new predator.
So we're sitting right now. We're sitting in an ocean.
No,
Maybe.
at this time, we're sitting in, at the time that I'm talking about, there was an ocean.
Right.
And so there's a new predator that's basically called the orthocone. And it's basically an octopus, but most of its body up to the eyes is put into this cone. And a big party hat, like a long cone. And there's a part where the animal is, and there's these chambers, and they can buoyant, and they can go up or down, and stuff, and they can control the buoyancy of the animal, and there's also giant sea scorpions, which are actually distantly related to scorpions that are called Eurypterids and stuff.
What time period is this?
The Ordovician,
So we went from
the Cambrian
to
the Ordovician,
then the Devonian,
and then the Carboniferous, Permian, and that's the entire Paleozoic era. And so basically in the in the Devonian, there's also a new predator called Dunkleosteus. This actually was found in Cleveland, Ohio. Some fossils of Dunkleosteus.
That big Dunkleosteus is a big old fish, isn't it?
It's a big fish
It's like a shark
with armor on its head, and it was toothless. But the actual plates of the teeth, were actually
part of its head.
like actually bony plates, which were like actually were parts of the like bony, like not like
Bony plates of the head,
like
extended
plates.
out, similar to teeth.
And they look like teeth. I actually have a toy of it,
Right.
and Dunkleosteus. And if you see it, it has like basically bony plates are actually the armor, and the teeth are actually not teeth, but they actually they're actually armor. So these creatures are technically toothless, and if they bit you, you literally would be chopped in half. Like if it bit part of,
And that was up in Cleveland?
Yeah,
I ain't going to Cleveland. I'm not swimming in Lake Erie. No.
But,
what if there's a Dunkleosteus in Lake Erie right now, swimming around like the Loch Ness Monster that's going to eat me?
But it went extinct millions of years, like
Well, that's
300,
good.
like
That's good.
300 something million years ago. But actual 300 million years ago was the time of the Carboniferous, and the final
300?
300 million years ago, exactly 300 million years ago, the Carboniferous period came, and at the Carboniferous, the oxygen was so high.
We're going to go through the Paleozoic era and stop, and then we'll come back and do...
the Mesozoic.
Yes.
And so at the time, basically, at the time of the Carboniferous, the oxygen was so high, and there's plant life. And also in the Devonian, there's a creature called Tiktaalik that was the first, like, spined, like, creature with a bony back, like with backbone.
Mm-hmm. First creature with a backbone?
To set foot on land.
Whoa, so it, like, came out of the water and onto the land.
And during the Devonian, there's basically the creature, the Dunkleosteus, were in the Placoderm family. And so, and those are normal fish. And so basically, it was basically like, remember the moon race?
Mm-hmm.
The race to the
Space
moon,
race.
the space race in the 60s? Instead of being the race to the moon, it would be the race to land.
Ah. That's a good analogy.
And
Carry on.
and then the placoderms lost, and
Right.
Tiktaalik was the first. It's like Tiktaalik is the Neil Armstrong of the Devonian,
Sure.
because it was the first creature. The first one was a creature with a backbone to set foot on land. But during the Ordovician, there were creatures like trilobites and horseshoe crabs that went on land, but and there are also insects that went on land. But an analogy with those is basically the moon rovers or Mars rovers before we actually set foot on the moon. And so that's basically, so since there's terrestrial life and plant life, the plants put many parts of oxygen into the atmosphere, and then it was more oxygen if we were alive.
Because plants breathe in
Carbon dioxide,
and they breathe out.
oxygen,
Right.
but too much of carbon dioxide will kill the plants,
Certainly.
because too much of oxygen would
We'll
kill
kill
us.
the humans. Right.
So what that means was there's so much oxygen that if humans were alive, they'd die. So humans cannot survive in the Carboniferous unless you have a hazmat suit or a gas mask or astronaut clothing. Well, basically just the gas tank. But at that time, the reason why bugs got so large, and also
How big do they get?
they got, like, Arthropleura is basically a millipede, even though it's basically flat like a centipede. It's actually in the millipede family, and it's basically like a rug, but an actual centipede.
So as big as a Volkswagen.
I think so. And also Meganeura is the size of an eagle, and it's a dragonfly the size of an eagle that ate small lizards. And also another thing to see at the Carboniferous is actually lizards. Not just lizards, but reptiles in general evolved in the Carboniferous period. And the reason why bugs got so large is bugs metabolize not like lungs. Instead,
Right.
they have like these little holes where they open up to get oxygen. And the small babies, if there's more oxygen, they need to take in more oxygen. And if they take in more oxygen, they would die. So they had to grow larger to take in that oxygen. And so if the larva is large,
So evolution.
so if the larva is large, then the adult versions would be completely enormous. And that is why bugs got large during this. And also, sadly, there's an extinction
Question.
event.
Do we know how bugs got small again?
So here's what happened. The oxygen level was dropping, and so bugs evolved smaller, and Meganeura and Arthropleura
So
died
we as Earth creatures, right? I say we as in Earth creatures. We evolve to what our surroundings are.
Yes.
And what our elements are, and what our minerals are, and what our food is, right?
Yes.
We evolve to everything around us.
Yes.
So we adapt to our surroundings. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that is fair to say. And so basically, so we had this information. Now, the theory of evolution was made by Charles Darwin, and it clearly shows, and also tells how dinosaurs evolved into birds. And the theory of evolution, like one time there's a three-toed horse, and then the horses evolved to just one hoof. The theory of evolution can also help how bugs got smaller after the Carboniferous, and then on to the Permian. And this time there's basically sometimes there were deserts, some places there were swamps, and here near the area called the Siberian Traps, there were
Where's that at?
in Siberia,
Okay. And Siberia is where?
in Russia, which is in Asia, which is on the world,
Yes. Which the world is in.
The solar system,
which is in the
Milky Way, which is in the galaxy cluster, which is in the universe, which is, I don't know what type of universe, if the multiverse theory is real, but we're getting off topic. So
always. All right, let's wrap this up because we're going on an hour. So let's wrap this up, and we can always come back and do this again.
So you're saying that I can come back on another show to talk about the Mesozoic and Cenozoic?
You can do that, or you can light up that little science page again and do your own.
Oh, well,
I'll do little science with you. We'll just sit here and talk.
Basically, if you want to know what little science is, the podcasters at home, it was basically only like 3 episodes, and but to me, I kind of got because it's kind of like for like toddlers, kind of. So I just got out of the.
All right. So wrap up.
Paleontology.
So we were talking about the Paleozoic era.
Permian, at the Permian period, the very last part. There's reptiles called Gorgonopsids, and like they basically looked like saber-toothed cats, but reptiles, which are actually like mammal-like reptiles, and there's Dimetrodons, which are basically Gorgonopsids without like saber teeth, because Gorgonopsids had saber teeth, and instead they had like scales on their back, like a
Spinosaurus, or
basically a quadrupedal Spinosaurus. Well, Spinosaurus sometimes is quadrupedal, but this time it was basically a fully terrestrial quadrupedal Spinosaurus, and it was used to eating land animals, not fish. And so basically,
you're a bipedal humanosaurus,
a bipedal Homo sapien, and
I made up a name called humanosaurus that made you a human dinosaur, but that's just me.
So basically, and also scutosaurs, which are I think they're relatives of turtles, maybe, and they're like cool. Quadrupedal, and they're plant eaters, and they're big armored, and they'd be hunting by the Gorgonopsids, but in the Siberian traps. So basically, there's 2 layers of the Permian. One, the first layer that happened during the Permian was a big, like trillions of tons of coal, like a boatload of coal, where you can put a coal mine in there, and you'll make like quadrillions or quintillions of dollars
because it's got that much coal.
Yeah,
except Joe Biden has squashed all of that, right? He doesn't like coal energy. Okay, we're getting off topic again.
Yeah, but also another good source of power is like the ice under the ocean. That's actual.
How's that
flammable?
Good source?
Flammable ice. That means flammable.
How is ice flammable?
Frozen. It's basically frozen nitrogen, and if you mine it, it has more than any other fossil fuel in the world. So that's a better option than mine all the coal in Siberian traps.
We need to invent a car that runs off that.
Like frozen nitrogen instead of coal or oil or gasoline. But without life, we don't have coal and gasoline. But
coil.
What? Oil.
You meant to say coal and oil, and you said
gasoline.
Coil. I know. I'm teasing.
And so,
I love it.
And then, so there's 2 layers of the Permian. Only 2 layers of Permian in Siberian traps. One is a thick layer of coal, and that means that there's a bunch of plant life at that time. But then, right on top of it, abrupt stop. And there's basalt, and that's an igneous rock.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's not salt; it's basalt.
Or basalt, which is an igneous rock, which is formed of sticky lava that kind of like full basalts from Hawaii, and that can only mean one thing.
What's that?
A volcano erupted. A super volcano erupted. like larger than even Yellowstone.
Okay, I want to talk about that. We're going to end with this, and we'll come back and we'll do another episode of this.
On
this is fun.
the Permian extinction.
No. I want you to talk about the possibilities of Yellowstone erupting today. What are your thoughts on that?
0%. It could happen in like 100,000 years, like 100,000 years.
So zero,
after.
you're saying 0% chance. How is that scientific?
Yellowstone would basically erupt.
Isn't there like a 0.002% chance that Yellowstone would erupt today? I'm hearing scientists, I'm reading about scientists that say Yellowstone could erupt at any moment. So why are you saying 0% chance?
So what I'm saying is that I believe that Yellowstone would erupt in the near future, like 1,000 years in the future. That's what.
From now?
Yeah, from now. That's my guess, or that's my theory. Since all the science stuff, volcanology. I watched a documentary that said that it's more likely to happen 1,000 years from now than happen right now.
So scientists are saying that eventually, whether
it could,
whether it be 1,000 years from now, but in 1,000 years, the way technology is progressing, is it possible that
we could stop
humans, if we're still
Possibly.
around, could we create a technology that is able to? I mean, we're already controlling weather, kind of. Right? We're okay, so I won't say we're controlling weather. We kind of are, but we can test different theories to be able to control weather, right?
Yes.
So they do seed clouds, right?
Yes. And they do seed clouds. I don't know. I don't know what sea clouds are. But we could possibly in the near future stop the eruption, but no one knows.
Who knows, right?
Yeah, so
your theory is this. 0% chance that in my lifetime, your lifetime, your kids' lifetime, your kids' lifetime, Yellowstone's not going to erupt.
Like in 1,000 years from now, that's most likely.
Right. So your kids' kids.
No, probably my kids once after, like probably if I live to 100, my kids would probably live to 100, and 100 plus 100 is 1,000. So possibly my kids' kids
on 100 times would have to see it, right?
Well, my kids' kids. Just that. So, probably that it may see the eruption of Yellowstone. And so, on back, but there's an even bigger one from the Siberian Traps, which is basically a bigger version of Yellowstone, which is in Russia.
Is that going to blow?
We don't know. We tried to find where the Siberian Traps are, and it's completely gone. Because when the plates move, they don't move the volcano. The volcano, it stays still, and
the plates maneuver over it?
Yeah, well...
Because isn't how an earthquake is made is when the plates shift over each other, right?
Yeah, where
they break over each other? So
the magma chamber, basically a mantle plume is where the core gets heated, where the core heats up the mantle, where it forms a magma chamber. Now, Yellowstone used to be in Idaho, and then it moved up all the way into Wyoming. And so that's probably what happened.
Is that right?
And that's probably...
I didn't know that.
And probably the plates crunched over and shifted, and it pushed the magma chamber from the Siberian Traps all the way down back into the mantle. And so...
How about we do this? How about we cut it off now, come back, pick it up where we were talking about, Siberian Chamber.
Or about the eruption of Siberian Traps caused the Permian extinction, and then we can move on to the Mesozoic and Cenozoic.
Well, you know what? Give us a brief synopsis of the Permian extinction with the Siberian Traps.
So the Siberian traps formed when there's a bunch of flood basalts, and they flooded all of it, and they formed, well, the Siberian traps. And then there's a bunch of gases and ash that spread around the world, the entire world, and those formed, and they created, and they, killed a bunch of animals, 95% of all species. It was the worst mass extinction, even worse than the dinosaurs extinction. And so...
Because we still have crocodiles, right?
Yes. And
They were back during the dinosaur era, correct?
Yeah. Well, the thing, maybe not the Permian, but right after that, we had the Triassic, and then maybe in another podcast we could talk about the Mesozoic and Cenozoic, maybe.
Sure.
And then also how we may bring back some creatures with technology and stuff.
Ooh, maybe we'll talk about CRISPR.
Yeah, CRISPR and CRISPR-Cas9 can edit DNA. And can edit DNA of a chicken that turned into probably a little T-Rex.
Man, bear, pig.
From South Park.
You're not allowed to watch South Park. Thank you for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you later.